The moment, Elena Romano saw her daughter crumpled on the shiny mall floor, wailing with such force that her little body shook. Something inside her broke in a way that all her wealth and power could never fix. Elena had just finished a call with her company's board of directors, discussing a merger worth $300 million, when she turned to find Sophie gone from the bench, where she had been coloring quietly just moments before. The panic that seized her was primal and absolute, drowning out everything else in the crowded shopping center. She had run through the crowds, her designer heels clicking frantically against the polished tiles, her heart hammering against her ribs until she spotted her daughter's pink dress near the fountain. Sophie was 5 years old and had always been independent, curious, and brave, but right now she was none of those things. She was just a terrified little girl who had wandered away and gotten lost, surrounded by a sea of strangers' legs, unable to find her mother. The child's face was red and blotchy, tears streaming down her cheeks as she gasped for breath between sobs. Elena rushed forward, but before she could reach Sophie, a man dropped to one knee beside her daughter. He was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing faded jeans and a plain navy blue Henley that had seen better days. His dark hair was slightly messy, and there was a smudge of what looked like paint on his forearm. Despite his obviously worn appearance, there was something solid and reassuring about him. "Hey there, sweetheart," the man said in a gentle voice that somehow carried over Sophie's crying. "I know you're scared right now, but everything's going to be okay. Can you take a deep breath with me?" Sophie's sobs caught in her throat as she looked up at the stranger with wide, tear-filled eyes. The man placed a hand over his own chest and took an exaggerated breath, making his shoulders rise and fall dramatically. "Just like this," he continued. "In through your nose, out through your mouth." "Can you try?" Sophie hiccuped and attempted to follow his lead, her small chest shuddering with the effort. The man kept breathing slowly and steadily, maintaining eye contact with her, his expression calm and patient. "That's perfect," he encouraged. "You're doing great. My name is Blake." "What's yours?" Sophie," the little girl managed to say between gasps. "Sophie. That's a beautiful name. Now, Sophie, I bet your mom is looking for you right now, and she's probably worried just like you are. But we're going to find her together, okay? Can you tell me what she looks like?" Elena stood frozen a few feet away, watching this stranger work magic with her daughter. She should have interrupted, should have rushed in and scooped Sophie up, but something made her pause. Sophie was actually calming down, her breathing becoming more regular as she focused on Blake's instructions. "She has dark hair," Sophie said, her voice small but steadier now. "And she's really pretty. She was wearing a blue dress." "A blue dress, got it," Blake said with an encouraging nod. "And I bet she's the best mom in the whole world, right?" Sophie nodded vigorously, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks, but these seemed different somehow, less panicked. "I want my mommy." "I know you do, and we're going to find her right now. How about we stand up together? Then we'll be taller and we can see better." Blake extended both hands towards Sophie, and the little girl grabbed them without hesitation. He helped her to her feet and then straightened up himself, still holding one of her hands. That was when his eyes met Elena's. For a moment, time seemed to suspend itself. Blake's eyes were a deep brown, warm and kind, with little crinkles at the corners that suggested he smiled often despite whatever hardships life had thrown at him. Elena felt something shift in her chest, something she had not felt in the 3 years since her husband's death. It was not just gratitude, though that was certainly part of it. It was recognition, as though some part of her soul had identified something essential in this stranger. "Mommy." Sophie shrieked, breaking the spell. She pulled free from Blake's hand and ran to Elena, who dropped to her knees and caught her daughter in a fierce embrace. "Oh, baby, oh, Sophie, I was so scared," Elena whispered, holding her daughter tight and breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." "I looked away and you were gone," Sophie sobbed into Elena's shoulder. "I was trying to find you." I know, sweetheart, I know, but you're safe now. Everything's okay. Elena stood up, lifting Sophie with her even though the girl was getting heavy for such maneuvers. She turned to Blake, who had taken a respectful step back, his hands now in his pockets. Up close, she could see he was probably in his early 30s, with a strong jawline shadowed with stubble and laugh lines that suggested warmth despite the weariness around his eyes. "Thank you," Elena said, and the words felt woefully inadequate. "Thank you so much. I don't know how to express how grateful I am." Blake shook his head, a small smile playing at his lips. "No thanks necessary. I'm just glad she's okay. Kids get separated from their parents all the time, especially in crowded places like this. Still, what you did, the way you calmed her down, that was remarkable. Do you have children of your own?" Something flickered across Blake's face, a mixture of pride and sadness. "Yeah, I've got a daughter, Lily. She's 6. Well, Lily is lucky to have such a caring father." Blake's smile became more genuine, reaching his eyes. "I'm lucky to have her. Look, I should get going. I'm glad Sophie found you. Take care of yourself, kiddo," he added, giving Sophie a little wave. Sophie lifted her head from Elena's shoulder and waved back shyly. "Thank you for helping me." "Anytime, Sophie. Stay close to your mom, okay?" As Blake turned to walk away, Elena felt an unexpected surge of panic, as though something important was slipping through her fingers. "Wait," she called out, surprising herself. Blake turned back, his eyebrows raised in question. Elena's mind raced. She was not the kind of woman who acted impulsively, especially not when it came to strangers, but something about this man had struck a chord deep within her. "I'd like to repay you somehow. Can I buy you lunch or coffee?" "I really would feel better if I could do something to thank you properly." Blake hesitated, and Elena could see him weighing the offer. There was no suspicion in his expression, just careful consideration. Finally, he shook his head gently. "That's really kind of you, but you don't owe me anything." "I'm just happy Sophie's okay." "Please," Elena pressed, adjusting Sophie's weight in her arms. "It would mean a lot to me, and I think Sophie would like to say a proper thank you once she's feeling better." Sophie chose that moment to nod against Elena's shoulder. "Can we, Mommy? He was nice to me." Blake looked from Sophie to Elena, and something in his expression softened. "All right," he said finally. "Coffee sounds nice, but just so you know, I'm supposed to be shopping for groceries right now, so I can't stay too long." Relief flooded through Elena, though she could not quite explain why it mattered so much. "Of course. There's a cafe on the 2nd floor. Would that work?" "Sure, lead the way." They made their way through the mall. Sophie now content to hold Elena's hand and walk beside her, occasionally glancing up at Blake with curious eyes. The food court on the 2nd floor was busy with the lunch crowd, but they managed to find a quiet cafe tucked into a corner that served artisan coffee and fresh pastries. Blake insisted on paying for his own coffee, politely, but firmly declining when Elena tried to cover the bill. She noticed he ordered the smallest size and skipped the pastries, and something about that observation made her chest tighten. She ordered Sophie a hot chocolate and a cookie, and got herself a latte she did not particularly want. They settled at a small table near the window, Sophie sitting between them and swinging her legs as she sipped her hot chocolate carefully. The initial awkwardness that Elena had expected never materialized. Instead, Blake asked Sophie about her coloring book, which Elena had managed to grab when they reunited, and the little girl launched into an enthusiastic explanation of her favorite colors and characters. Watching them interact, Elena felt that strange pull again. Blake was genuinely interested in what Sophie had to say, asking follow-up questions and laughing at her jokes with real amusement. He was not patronizing or distant the way so many adults were with children. He was present, engaged, treating Sophie like a person whose thoughts and feelings mattered. "So what brings you to the mall on a Tuesday afternoon?" Blake asked, after Sophie became absorbed in breaking her cookie into precise pieces. Elena wrapped her hands around her latte cup. "Sophie had a half day at school, and I promised her we could go shopping for her friend's birthday present." What about you? Grocery shopping, like I mentioned. I try to come during off-peak hours when I can, but today's schedule got away from me a bit. You said you have a daughter. Is she in school right now? Blake nodded, a soft smile crossing his face. Yeah, Lily's in first grade. She loves it, thank God. I was worried about how she'd adjust, but she's thriving. That must be wonderful to see. Sophie's in kindergarten and she's obsessed with learning to read. Every street sign, every label, she wants to sound it out. Lily's the same way, Blake said with a laugh. We can't go anywhere without her reading everything out loud. It's like having a little narrator with us all the time. Elena found herself laughing too, a genuine sound that felt rusty from disuse. Does your wife appreciate the narration? The question was out before she could stop it, and she immediately regretted the transparent attempt to determine his relationship status. But Blake's expression did not close off. Instead, his smile turned sad. It's just Lily and me, he said quietly. Her mom passed away when Lily was 2. Oh God, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have asked. It's okay. It's been 4 years. We've learned to build a good life together, the two of us. He paused, then added, what about Sophie's father? Elena appreciated that he had asked directly rather than dancing around the question. He died 3 years ago. Heart attack. He was only 38. I'm sorry, that's incredibly hard. Thank you. It was sudden. One day he was here, and the next he was gone. Sophie was so young, she barely remembers him, which breaks my heart sometimes. Blake nodded, understanding clear in his eyes. Lily has the same thing. She has photos and stories, but not real memories. Sometimes I don't know if that makes it easier or harder for her. They sat in companionable silence for a moment, united by the shared experience of loss and single parenthood. Elena had not talked about Marcus with anyone outside her family in months. Her social circle consisted mainly of business associates who treated her widowhood with awkward sympathy and then quickly changed the subject. But here, with this virtual stranger, it felt natural to speak about it. What do you do for work? Elena asked, wanting to shift to lighter ground. I'm a carpenter, Blake said, and there was quiet pride in his voice. I do custom furniture, renovations, that kind of thing. I work for a construction company, but I also take side jobs when I can. That explained the paint smudge and the worn but capable hands. Elena found herself noticing those hands now, strong and calloused, the hands of someone who worked with them every day. They were so different from the soft, manicured hands of the executives she dealt with. That sounds fulfilling. Creating things with your hands. It is. I love seeing something take shape from raw materials, and it's flexible enough that I can usually work around Lily's schedule. What about you? Elena hesitated. This was always the moment that changed things, when people found out who she was and what she did. Their demeanor shifted, became either overly deferential or falsely casual, but she had asked him, so it was only fair to answer honestly. I run a tech company. We develop software solutions for healthcare systems. That sounds important, and probably a lot of responsibility. His tone had not changed at all. He was not impressed or intimidated, just interested. Elena felt something loosen in her chest. It is. Sometimes it feels like too much, trying to balance everything, being a single parent on top of running a company. I can only imagine. At least with carpentry, I can put down my tools at the end of the day. I'm guessing your work follows you home. It does. More than I'd like. Sophie deserves more of my attention than she gets sometimes. Blake glanced at Sophie, who had finished her cookie and was now drawing faces in the foam of her hot chocolate with her finger. She seems like a great kid. Happy, confident, you're clearly doing something right. The compliment warmed Elena more than it should have. Thank you. That means a lot. Lily sounds wonderful too. You're raising her on your own. Yeah, her mom's family isn't really in the picture, and mine is scattered across the country. It's been me and Lily against the world since the beginning. He took a sip of his coffee. Not gonna lie, it's been tough. Financially and otherwise, but we make it work. Elena nodded, respecting his honesty. She appreciated that he did not pretend everything was perfect, but also did not seem to be asking for pity or help. He was simply stating facts, the reality of his life. "Mommy, I need to use the bathroom," Sophie announced, sliding off her chair. "Okay, sweetie, let's go." Elena stood, gathering her purse, and looked at Blake. "Will you excuse us for just a moment?" "Of course. Take your time." In the bathroom, as Elena helped Sophie wash her hands, the little girl looked up at her with serious eyes. "I like Blake. He's nice." "He is nice. He helped you when you were scared." "He reminds me of the picture of Daddy." Elena's hands stilled. "What do you mean, honey?" "He has the same kind eyes, the ones that smile." Elena felt tears prick at her eyes but blinked them away. Sophie so rarely mentioned Marcus that each time felt significant. "Yeah, he does have kind eyes. Can we see him again?" "I don't know, baby. We might not." "He was just a nice person who helped us today." Sophie frowned, processing this. "But I want to thank him more, for making me feel better." "You already did thank him, but not enough." Elena smiled despite herself. When Sophie got an idea in her head, she could be remarkably stubborn. She got that from her father. "We'll see, okay? Right now, let's go back before he thinks we got lost again." When they returned to the table, Blake was checking his phone with a slight frown. He looked up and smiled when he saw them, but Elena could see the worry lines around his eyes. "Everything okay?" she asked as they sat down. "Yeah, just checking the time. I really do need to get those groceries and pick up Lily from her after-school program." "Of course. I've kept you long enough." Elena hesitated, then made a decision. She pulled a business card from her purse, the expensive cream cardstock with her name and contact information embossed in gold. "I know this might seem forward, but I'd like to give you my number. If you ever need anything, or if Lily and Sophie could maybe have a playdate sometime, please call me." Blake took the card, studying it for a moment. Elena watched his eyes widen slightly as he read her title on the card. Chief Executive Officer, Romano Technologies. There it was, the moment everything changed, but when Blake looked up, his expression was thoughtful rather than altered. "Elena Romano, I thought you looked familiar. I've seen articles about your company. You've done some impressive work." "Thank you. Does that bother you, that I'm apparently recognizable?" Blake shook his head slowly. "No, should it? Some people get weird when they find out who I am." "I'm a carpenter from Queens who's barely keeping his head above water most months," Blake said with a self-deprecating smile. "I don't have the energy to get weird about someone being successful. Besides, you've been nothing but kind and genuine. That matters more than what your business card says." Elena felt a wave of relief so strong it almost made her dizzy. "I appreciate that, more than you know." Blake pulled out his own wallet and extracted a considerably more modest business card, slightly worn at the edges. "Here, fair's fair, and for what it's worth, I think a playdate might be nice. Lily could use more friends, and I think she and Sophie would get along." Elena took his card, running her thumb over the simple printed text. Blake Xavier, Custom Carpentry and Renovations. There was a phone number and an email address, nothing more. She slipped it carefully into her purse. Sophie had perked up at the mention of a playdate. "Really? I can meet Lily?" "We'll see, Sophie," Elena said gently. "Blake and I need to figure out schedules first. But we'll try," Blake added, winking at Sophie. "I think you two would be friends." They walked together toward the exit, Sophie holding Elena's hand and chattering away about what games she would want to play with Lily. At the mall entrance, they stopped. "Thank you again," Elena said, "for everything. You turned what could have been a traumatic experience into something manageable. I'm glad I could help. Take care of yourselves." Blake crouched down to Sophie's level one more time. "Remember what we talked about, okay? Stay close to your mom in crowded places, and keep being brave." Sophie nodded solemnly, then surprised both adults by stepping forward and hugging Blake quickly before retreating back to Elena's side. Blake's face registered genuine surprise and pleasure. "Bye, Blake," Sophie said shyly. "Bye, Sophie. See you around." Elena watched him walk away, disappearing into the parking lot, and felt that same strange reluctance to let him go. She looked down at her daughter, who was watching Blake leave with a wistful expression. "Come on, baby. Let's go home." That night, after Sophie was tucked into bed, Elena sat in her home office overlooking the Manhattan skyline, supposedly reviewing quarterly reports. Instead, she found herself pulling Blake's business card from her purse and staring at it. The card stock was thinner than hers, the printing simple, but there was something honest about it. No pretense, no fancy design, just the essential information. She thought about the way he had calmed Sophie down, the patience and kindness in his voice. She thought about his worn clothes and the way he had carefully budgeted even a small coffee purchase. She thought about his eyes, warm and sad and kind all at once, and the way they had looked at her like she was just Elena, not Elena Romano, Billionaire CEO. Before she could second-guess herself, she pulled out her phone and typed a text message to the number on his card. "Hi, Blake. It's Elena from the mall today. I wanted to thank you again for helping Sophie. If you're serious about that playdate, Sophie hasn't stopped talking about meeting Lily. Maybe we could arrange something for this weekend. No pressure at all if it doesn't work out." She read the message 3 times, deleted it, rewrote it, and finally hit send before she could overthink it anymore. Then she set her phone face down on her desk and tried to focus on the reports in front of her. The words blurred together, her phone buzzed 5 minutes later. "Hi, Elena. I'm glad Sophie's doing okay. This weekend could work. Lily would love it. How about Saturday afternoon? We could meet at the park near Riverside if the weather holds." Elena smiled at her phone like a teenager. She typed back quickly, "That sounds perfect. What time works best for you?" "How about 2 o'clock? That gives Lily time to finish her morning activities." 2 o'clock it is. See you then." "Looking forward to it. Good night." Elena set down her phone and realized she was grinning. When was the last time she had looked forward to something that was not work-related? When was the last time she had felt this flutter of anticipation in her stomach? The answer was sobering. Not since before Marcus died. For 3 years, she had poured everything into being a mother to Sophie and running her company. She had told herself that was enough, that she did not need anything else. Romance, dating, companionship, those were complications she did not have room for in her carefully structured life. But something about Blake had slipped past her defenses. Maybe it was the circumstances of their meeting, the vulnerability of seeing Sophie so scared and watching him ease that fear. Maybe it was the recognition of shared experience, both of them single parents navigating the world alone. Or maybe it was something simpler and more profound. The feeling that when she looked at him, she saw someone real, someone genuine, someone who saw her the same way. Saturday arrived with clear skies and the perfect autumn crispness that made New York City magical. Elena spent an embarrassing amount of time choosing her outfit, finally settling on jeans, a soft cream sweater, and ankle boots. Casual, but put together. Sophie wore her favorite purple jacket and could barely contain her excitement during the drive to Riverside Park. "What if Lily doesn't like me?" Sophie asked as they walked toward the designated meeting spot near the playground. "She'll like you, honey. You're wonderful. And Blake said she's excited to meet you. But what if we don't like the same games? Then you'll find something you both enjoy. That's what making new friends is all about." Elena was giving her daughter advice while simultaneously battling her own nerves. What was she doing? This was not a date. It was a playdate for their daughters, 2 single parents doing something nice for their kids. That was all. Except it did not feel like that was all. Blake and Lily were already at the park when they arrived. Blake was pushing Lily on a swing, and her delighted laughter carried across the playground. Lily had long dark hair in 2 braids and wore jeans with grass stains on the knees and a bright yellow jacket. She looked adventurous and happy. Blake noticed them approaching and waved. He said something to Lily, who twisted around on the swing to look. As soon as the swing stopped, Lily jumped off and ran toward them with the fearless energy of a 6-year-old. "Are you Sophie?" Lily asked, skidding to a stop in front of them. Sophie nodded, suddenly shy. I'm Lily. My dad said you got lost at the mall, but you were really brave. Do you want to go on the swings with me? Okay, Sophie said, her voice small but willing. Come on. Lily grabbed Sophie's hand and tugged her toward the playground equipment. Blake joined Elena, both of them watching their daughters race off together. Well, that was easier than expected, he said with a laugh. Lily's very outgoing. She is. It's been a gift and a challenge. She makes friends everywhere but has no concept of stranger danger, which terrifies me. Sophie's usually more reserved, but she seems comfortable with Lily already. They moved to a bench where they could keep an eye on the girls, who were now taking turns pushing each other on the swings. The conversation flowed easily, touching on everything from their daughters' schools to their favorite books to the best pizza places in the city. Blake was funny and self-deprecating, with a quick wit that made Elena laugh more than she had in months. Can I ask you something? Blake said after a while, his tone becoming more serious. Of course. Why did you really reach out about the playdate? Not that I'm complaining, but I got the sense that you're not someone who typically exchanges numbers with strangers in malls. Elena considered the question, appreciating his directness. You're right, I don't. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure myself. There was something about the way you helped Sophie, something about talking with you afterward. It felt natural, easy. I don't get a lot of easy in my life. Blake nodded slowly. I get that. My life isn't exactly relaxing either, different reasons. When you texted, I almost didn't respond, figured you were way out of my league and it would just be awkward. But Lily's been asking for more friends and I thought, what the hell? Sometimes you have to take a chance. I'm glad you did. Take the chance, I mean. Their eyes met, and Elena felt that same jolt of connection she had experienced at the mall. Blake's gaze was steady, interested, but also careful. He was not pushing, not assuming, just being present in the moment. Dad, Elena, Lily's voice interrupted them. Both girls were standing at the bottom of a tall slide, looking expectantly in their direction. Come play with us. Blake raised an eyebrow at Elena. What do you say? Feel like going down a slide. I'm wearing white, Elena protested, but she was already standing. Live dangerously, Blake teased. They spent the next hour playing with the girls, chasing them around the playground, helping them across the monkey bars, and yes, going down the slide multiple times. Elena could not remember the last time she had played like this, fully present and laughing without reservation. At work, she was always composed, always in control. At home, she was often distracted by emails and calls. But here, with Blake and the girls, she found herself just being. Eventually, the girls tired themselves out and begged for ice cream. There was a vendor near the park entrance, and Blake started to reach for his wallet, but Elena was faster. Please, let me. You've been so kind to Sophie. Blake hesitated, and Elena could see the pride warring with practicality in his expression. She understood. He did not want to seem like he could not provide, but she also guessed that ice cream for 2 kids was not a trivial expense for him. How about this? She said quietly while the girls debated flavors with the vendor. You get the ice cream today, I'll get it next time. Deal? The implication of a next time hung between them. Blake smiled. Deal. He paid for 4 ice cream cones, and they found a spot on the grass where they could sit and eat. Sophie and Lily were already best friends, giggling over some private joke and comparing their ice cream choices. They're good together, Blake observed, nodding toward the girls. They really are. Sophie needs this. She doesn't have many friends outside of school. Same with Lily. My work schedule makes it hard to arrange playdates, and I don't really have other parent friends to coordinate with. I have the opposite problem. I know plenty of other parents, but they're all in a different social circle, the kind who have nannies and drivers. Sophie and I don't quite fit that world, even though technically we could afford it. Blake looked at her curiously. Why don't you fit that world, I mean, or why don't you want to? Elena thought about how to answer. I grew up middle class. Marcus, my husband, he came from money, but he never acted like it. When he died, the company was successful but not what it is now. I've built it into something bigger, but I still remember what it was like before. I don't want Sophie growing up thinking money means you're better than other people, or that it can insulate you from real life. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. I worry about the opposite with Lily. I don't want her to grow up thinking we're less than other people because we don't have as much. It's a balance, right? Teaching them to be grateful for what they have without being entitled, and to be proud of who they are regardless of circumstances. Exactly. Elena licked melting ice cream from her cone. How do you do it? Financially, I mean. I don't want to pry, but you mentioned things are tight. Blake was quiet for a moment, and Elena worried she had overstepped. But then he spoke, his voice even and factual. Lily's mom, Jessica, she didn't have life insurance. We were young, barely making ends meet, and it seemed like something we'd worry about later. After she died, I had medical bills, funeral costs, and suddenly I was a single parent. I've been climbing out of that hole ever since. The construction company pays okay, and the side jobs help, but daycare and after-school programs aren't cheap. Some months are better than others. That must be incredibly stressful. It is, but I've learned to manage. We have what we need, even if we don't have everything we might want. And Lily's happy, which is what matters. Elena felt a surge of admiration for this man. He was working hard, putting his daughter first, not complaining or making excuses. There was a quiet strength to him that was deeply attractive. "What about you?" Blake asked. I imagine running a company comes with its own stress. Different kind, but yes, there's always someone who wants something from me, a decision, an approval, a solution to a problem. Sometimes I feel like I'm being pulled in 100 directions at once. And then I feel guilty because I have resources that most people would kill for. What right do I have to complain? Stress is stress, Blake said gently. Money doesn't make you immune to it. Different problems, sure, but still real. They talked until the sun started to dip lower in the sky and both girls began showing signs of tiredness. Sophie was leaning against Elena's side, and Lily had climbed into Blake's lap. "We should probably head out," Blake said reluctantly. "Lily needs dinner and bath time." "Same here." Elena stood, helping Sophie to her feet. "Thank you for today. It was really lovely." "It was. We should do it again." "I'd like that." Elena hesitated, then decided to be brave. "Actually, I wanted to ask you something. My company is hosting a charity fundraiser next weekend. It's a formal event, probably not your usual scene, but I wondered if you might want to come with me, as my date." She watched Blake's expression carefully, saw the surprise flicker across his face. "As your date," he repeated. "Yes, I mean no pressure. I know it's probably not your thing, and you'd need to find someone to watch Lily, and it's formal, so you'd need a suit. Forget it, it's too much." "Elena," Blake interrupted, standing up with Lily still in his arms. "I'd love to. It sounds terrifying and completely out of my comfort zone, but I'd love to. Really, really. Fair warning, though, I haven't worn a suit since Jessica's funeral. I might be rusty. I think you'll manage just fine." Elena felt her heart racing. "It's next Saturday at 7. I can send you the details." "Sounds good, and I'll figure out the Lily situation. My neighbor sometimes babysits." They exchanged another smile, this one charged with possibility. Then Blake shifted Lily higher in his arms. "Come on, Lily Bug. Time to go home." "But I don't want to leave Sophie," Lily protested sleepily. "We'll see her again soon," Blake promised. "Say goodbye." "Bye, Sophie. Bye, Elena." "Goodbye, Lily. It was wonderful meeting you." Sophie waved tiredly. "Bye, Lily. Bye, Blake." Elena watched them walk away, Blake's broad shoulders carrying his daughter easily, Lily's head resting on his shoulder. Something in the image made her throat tight. "Mommy, can Lily come over to our house next time?" Sophie asked as they headed to their car. "Maybe, honey. We'll see." "I really like her, and I really like Blake. Do you like Blake?" Elena smiled down at her daughter. "Yes, sweetheart, I like Blake." "Good, me too." The week that followed was a blur of meetings, presentations, and preparation for the fundraiser. Elena found herself thinking about Blake at odd moments, during conference calls and strategy sessions. She wondered what he was doing, if he was thinking about her too, if she had been too forward in asking him to the fundraiser. They texted occasionally, brief messages that were ostensibly about coordinating future playdates, but felt like more. He sent her a photo of Lily drawing a picture of Sophie, and Elena responded with a video of Sophie insisting on wearing her purple jacket to school because Lily said purple was a brave color. On Thursday, Blake texted, "Quick question. How formal is formal? Do I need a tux or will a suit work?" Elena called him instead of texting back. "A suit is perfect. You don't need to buy anything special." "I might need to buy something, period," Blake admitted with a laugh. "Like I said, it's been a while. I'll figure it out." "Blake, I don't want you to spend money you don't have on this." "If it's going to be a hardship, it's not," he interrupted gently. "I want to do this. I want to take you on a proper date. Let me worry about the suit." "Okay, but for the record, I think you'd look good in anything." There was a pause. "Are you flirting with me, Elena Romano?" "Maybe." "Is that okay?" "More than okay." His voice was warm. "For the record, I think you'd look good in anything too, which is impressive considering I've only ever seen you in casual clothes." "Wait until you see me dressed up. I might surprise you. I'm already surprised by you every time we talk." They chatted for another 20 minutes, the conversation flowing from their daughters to their childhoods to their favorite movies. By the time Elena hung up, she was grinning like an idiot, and her assistant was giving her curious looks through the glass wall of her office. Saturday arrived faster than Elena expected. She spent the afternoon getting ready, a process that included multiple outfit changes and Sophie's enthusiastic input. She finally settled on a midnight blue gown that hugged her curves before flowing out into an elegant skirt. Diamond earrings that had been Marcus's last gift to her. Hair swept up to show off her neck. Heels that added 3 inches to her height. When she looked at herself in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked confident, powerful, beautiful. But more than that, she looked excited. There was a light in her eyes that had been absent for too long. Sophie approved the final look with a solemn nod. "You look like a princess, Mommy." "Thank you, baby. You'll be good for Mrs. Chen tonight, I promise. Are you going to kiss Blake?" Elena nearly choked. "What, Sophie?" "Lily said her dad talks about you a lot. She thinks he wants to kiss you. Did she now? And what do you think about that?" Sophie considered this seriously. "I think it would be okay if you want to kiss him." "Lily said it would be nice if we could all be a family." Elena's heart clenched. She crouched down to Sophie's level, careful not to wrinkle her dress. "Sweetie, Blake and I are just getting to know each other. We're friends right now. I don't want you to expect anything more than that, okay?" "But you like him, I can tell." "I do like him, but liking someone and becoming a family are very different things. I need you to understand that." "Okay, Mommy, I just want you to be happy. You smile more when you talk about Blake." Elena pulled her daughter into a careful hug, overwhelmed by love for this perceptive little person. "I love you so much. You know that, right?" "I know. I love you too. Now go. Blake is probably waiting." Elena had arranged for a car to pick Blake up first. When the town car pulled up outside her building, she took a deep breath and headed down. The driver opened the door, and she slid into the back seat. Blake was already there, and the sight of him stole her breath. He wore a charcoal gray suit that fit him perfectly, emphasizing his broad shoulders and lean build. His white shirt was crisp, his tie a deep burgundy that somehow brought out the warmth in his eyes. His hair was neatly styled, his jaw freshly shaved. He looked sophisticated and handsome and just the tiniest bit uncomfortable, like he was wearing a costume. "Wow," Blake said, his eyes widening as he took her in. "Elena, you look stunning." "Thank you, you clean up pretty well yourself." "I feel like I'm playing dress up," he admitted. "But I figured if I'm going to escort the most beautiful woman in New York, I should at least try to match her level." Elena felt warmth spread through her chest. "You succeed admirably. Seriously, Blake, you look incredible." "So do you. I mean, I already said that, but it bears repeating." "Wow." They smiled at each other, the air between them charged with nervous energy and anticipation. The driver pulled smoothly into traffic, heading toward the venue in Midtown. "So what should I expect tonight?" Blake asked. "Any etiquette I should know? Special handshakes, secret billionaire rituals?" Elena laughed. "No secret rituals, I promise. It's a charity fundraiser for pediatric healthcare research. There will be dinner, some speeches, probably some dancing. People will donate absurd amounts of money and pat themselves on the back. The usual. Sounds intense. It can be. But the cause is good, and we raise significant funds for research. That's what matters. And everyone there will be rich and powerful. Most of them, yes. Is that intimidating?" Blake considered this. "A little. But I've met you, and you're rich and powerful, and you're also kind and funny and real. So I'm hoping your crowd is similar." "Some of them are. Some of them are not. I won't lie, there will be people there who judge you based on what you do for a living and how much money you make. But those people don't matter. They matter to you, though, if they're your colleagues and business associates." Elena turned to face him more fully. "Blake, I'm not ashamed of you or what you do. I think you're one of the most impressive people I've ever met. You're raising a wonderful daughter essentially on your own, working hard to provide for her, and you still have room in your heart to help a scared little girl in a mall. That's worth more than any bank account." Blake's expression softened. He reached over and took her hand, his palm warm and slightly rough against hers. "Thank you for saying that, and for the record, I think you're pretty damn impressive too." They held hands the rest of the drive, talking quietly about everything and nothing. When they arrived at the venue, a historic hotel with soaring ceilings and crystal chandeliers, photographers were stationed outside to capture arrivals. Elena felt Blake tense beside her. "They're for publicity," she explained. "We don't have to stop for photos if you don't want to." "Will it look weird if we don't?" "Maybe, but I don't care." Blake squeezed her hand. "Let's do it. I'm here with you. Might as well own it." They stepped out of the car together, and immediately cameras began flashing. Elena was used to this, moving smoothly into position and offering a practiced smile. Blake stood beside her, his hand resting lightly on her lower back, looking considerably more comfortable than she had expected. "Elena, who's your date?" one photographer called out. "Can we get a name?" Elena ignored them, giving one final smile before guiding Blake toward the entrance. "Sorry about that. It's part of the circus." "It's fine. Though I'm guessing my photo is going to end up in some society pages tomorrow." "Probably. Is that a problem?" "Not for me. Lily might think it's cool." "My boss might give me shit about dating out of my league." "You're not dating out of your league." Blake grinned. "Elena, you're a billionaire CEO in a designer gown who runs a major tech company. I'm a carpenter who lives in a one-bedroom apartment in Queens. I think the league difference is pretty clear." "And yet here we are," Elena said, leading him into the glittering ballroom. Together. The fundraiser was everything Elena had described and more. The ballroom was decorated in gold and white, with elaborate floral centerpieces on every table and a string quartet playing classical music. Waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. The guests were a who's who of New York's elite, dripping in diamonds and designer labels. Elena introduced Blake to countless people, and to his credit, he handled it all with grace. He was polite and engaged, asking intelligent questions and not seeming intimidated by the wealth and power surrounding him. More than once, Elena caught him scanning the room with an appreciative eye, and when she asked what he was looking at, he pointed out architectural details and craftsmanship in the woodwork. "See that molding?" he said quietly, nodding toward the ceiling. "That's hand-carved, probably original to the building. And those panels, real mahogany, not veneer, they don't make them like this anymore." Elena found herself seeing the room through his eyes, appreciating the artistry she usually overlooked. It was refreshing, this different perspective. Dinner was served at 8, a multi-course affair that felt excessive even by Elena's standards. Blake navigated the array of silverware without hesitation, and when she raised an eyebrow at him, he shrugged. "Jessica worked at a country club in college. She taught me which fork to use." She sounds like she was wonderful. She was. I think she would have liked you. The comment was unexpected and surprisingly moving. Elena felt tears prick her eyes but blinked them away. I wish I could have met her. I wish you could have too. They were interrupted by a colleague of Elena's, a venture capitalist named Richard, who was known for being both brilliant and insufferable. He settled into the conversation with barely a glance at Blake, launching into a story about a recent investment deal. So of course I told them their valuation was ridiculous, Richard said, gesturing with his wine glass. They came back with a more reasonable number and we closed the deal. It's all about knowing when to push. Sounds like you played it perfectly, Elena said noncommittally. She had learned to navigate these conversations with practiced diplomacy. Richard finally turned to Blake. And what do you do? I'm a carpenter. How interesting. Residential or commercial? Both. I work for a construction company and also do custom pieces on the side. Really? Fascinating. Elena, I wanted to talk to you about the Patterson merger. Have you considered? Blake spoke up, his voice calm but pointed. Actually, Richard, I'd love to hear your thoughts on something. Elena mentioned you invest in tech startups. Do you ever consider how the products you fund will impact working-class people? The ones who actually build and use the infrastructure that supports technology? Richard blinked, clearly thrown by the question. I suppose that's more of a secondary consideration. The primary focus is on market potential and return on investment. Sure, makes sense from a business perspective, but at some point, someone has to think about the human element, right? Otherwise, you end up with technology that works great for rich people and leaves everyone else behind. Elena bit back a smile as she watched Richard flounder. This was exactly the kind of question that tech investors hated because it forced them to confront the limitations of their worldview. Well, yes, of course social impact is important, Richard said stiffly, but the market determines value. The market is made up of people, Blake countered mildly. All kinds of people, just seems like we should consider all of them. Indeed. Well, lovely chatting with you both. Elena, we'll talk later. Richard beat a hasty retreat, and Elena turned to Blake with undisguised delight. That was amazing. He looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. Was I out of line? I know he's your colleague. You were perfect. Richard needed someone to challenge him. Most people just agree with him because he controls so much capital. I don't need his capital, so I guess I have that freedom, Blake said with a grin. The speeches began after dinner, starting with Elena herself. She walked to the podium with her usual confidence, but this time she was aware of Blake's eyes on her, watching her with what looked like admiration and pride. She delivered her prepared remarks about the importance of funding pediatric healthcare research, about how innovation could save lives, about the responsibility they all had to contribute to the greater good. As she spoke, her eyes kept drifting back to Blake. He sat at their table, fully focused on her words, not checking his phone or whispering to neighbors like so many in the audience. When she finished and stepped down from the podium, the applause was generous, but the only approval she cared about was the smile Blake gave her when she returned to her seat. You're a natural up there, he said quietly. Commanding and passionate, I can see why people follow your lead. Thank you. Public speaking used to terrify me. I've gotten better with practice. Well, you're very good at it now. Dancing began at 9, the quartet switching to more contemporary arrangements. Blake stood and offered his hand with exaggerated formality. May I have this dance, Miss Romano? You may, Elena said, laughing as she took his hand. On the dance floor, Blake pulled her close, one hand resting on her waist, the other clasping hers gently. He moved confidently, leading her through a simple waltz. You didn't mention you could dance, Elena said. Jessica taught me that too. We took lessons before our wedding. I'm not great, but I know enough not to embarrass myself. You're better than most men here, trust me. They swayed together, and Elena felt herself relaxing into his arms. He was solid and warm, his hand steady at her waist. This close, she could smell his cologne, something subtle and woodsy that suited him perfectly. "Thank you for coming tonight," she said softly. "I know this isn't your world. It's not, but you are, and I wanted to be where you are. Besides, it's been interesting, eye-opening." "In what way?" "Seeing how the other half lives, I guess. The wealth, the influence, the way everyone networks and positions themselves. It's like a complex dance where everyone knows the steps but me." "Does it bother you?" Blake was quiet for a moment, his brow furrowed in thought. "No, it's just different. And it makes me understand you better, I think. The pressure you're under, the expectations, it must be exhausting sometimes." "It is. But I chose this life, or at least I chose to keep building the company after Marcus died. I can't complain." "You can complain to me," Blake said, meeting her eyes. "That's what friends do. They listen without judgment." "Is that what we are, friends? I hope we're becoming more than that, but friends is a good start." Elena's heart beat faster. They had been circling around this all evening, this acknowledgement that something real was developing between them. "I hope so, too." The song ended and another began, but they stayed on the floor, moving together through song after song. Other couples came and went, but Elena and Blake remained, lost in their own world. They talked and laughed and occasionally fell into comfortable silence, just enjoying being close. Eventually, Elena's feet started to protest in her high heels, and Blake noticed her slight wince. "Want to get some air?" he suggested. They slipped out onto a terrace overlooking the city. The October air was cool but not cold, refreshing after the warmth of the crowded ballroom. City lights twinkled in every direction, and the sounds of traffic below were muted by their height. "This is better," Elena said, leaning against the railing. "Don't get me wrong, I appreciate what these events accomplish, but they can be overwhelming." Blake joined her at the railing, standing close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "What was he like? Your husband?" Elena smiled, thinking of Marcus. "He was brilliant and kind and funny. He had this ability to make everyone around him feel important and heard. When he walked into a room, it lit up. Sophie has that same quality. Do you still love him?" The question was gentle, not accusatory. Elena considered it carefully. "I'll always love him. He was my first love, the father of my daughter, but I've also had to move forward. The grief doesn't go away, but it changes shape. It becomes something you carry with you rather than something that crushes you." Blake nodded. "That's beautifully put, and accurate. I feel the same way about Jessica. She's part of me, part of Lily, and that's okay, but I also know she'd want me to be happy, to move on when I was ready." "Are you ready?" Blake turned to face her fully, his expression serious and open. "I think I might be, or at least I'm ready to try. I haven't looked at anyone else since Jessica died. Didn't want to, didn't have the energy or the interest. And then I met you, and suddenly I'm thinking about things I haven't thought about in years." "What kind of things?" "How nice it is to talk to someone who understands. How good it feels to laugh with someone who gets my jokes. How beautiful a woman can be when she's just being herself." He reached up and gently tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "How much I want to kiss you right now." Elena's breath caught. "Then why don't you?" Blake's hand came to rest on her cheek, his thumb brushing softly across her cheekbone. He leaned in slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away. When his lips met hers, the kiss was gentle and questioning, a promise more than a demand. Elena responded, her hands coming up to rest on his chest, feeling his heartbeat strong and steady beneath her palms. The kiss deepened, and she felt 3 years of loneliness and isolation begin to crack open. This was not about replacing Marcus or forgetting Jessica. This was about two people who had survived loss and found something new and precious together. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. Blake rested his forehead against hers. "I've been wanting to do that all night," he admitted. "Me too, though Sophie predicted this would happen." "Lily did too. Apparently our daughters are matchmakers. Smart girls." They stood together for a few more minutes, wrapped in each other's arms, before the cool air drove them back inside. The fundraiser was winding down, guests beginning to depart. Elena said her necessary goodbyes, Blake a steady presence at her side. In the car on the way home, Elena leaned against Blake's shoulder, exhausted but happy. "What did you think? Honestly." Honestly, it was intimidating and foreign and sometimes uncomfortable, but it was also amazing because I got to see you in your element. Got to watch you command a room and raise millions of dollars for sick kids. Got to dance with you and kiss you. I'd say that makes it one of the best nights of my life. Mine too. The car dropped Blake off first. He walked her to her building door, ever the gentleman, and kissed her again under the awning. "When can I see you again?" he asked. "Soon, as soon as possible. Maybe we can do something with the girls tomorrow, something more our speed." "That sounds perfect. I'll text you in the morning." "Blake, thank you for everything, for being yourself, for not being intimidated, for just being there. Thank you for inviting me, for taking a chance on a carpenter from Queens. Best decision I've made in a long time." Over the following weeks, Elena and Blake fell into a rhythm. They saw each other as often as their schedules allowed, sometimes with their daughters and sometimes alone. They discovered a shared love of old movies and spicy food. They learned each other's routines and quirks. Blake taught Sophie how to hammer a nail straight, and Elena helped Lily with her reading homework. The differences in their lives were impossible to ignore, but they worked to bridge them. Elena started spending more time in Queens, visiting Blake's modest but cozy apartment, enjoying the diverse neighborhood restaurants and parks. Blake became more comfortable in Manhattan, though he always preferred the quieter moments they spent together to the high-profile events. One Saturday afternoon, about a month after the fundraiser, Elena invited Blake and Lily to her penthouse for the first time. Sophie was thrilled to show Lily her room, with its wall of books and her collection of stuffed animals. The girls disappeared immediately, leaving the adults in the kitchen. Blake walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows, taking in the panoramic view of the city. "This is incredible. You can see everything from up here." "It's a bit much, I know." "It's not too much, it's just you. Successful and accomplished and yes, wealthy, that's not a bad thing. Sometimes it feels like a barrier between us. The money, I mean, the lifestyle differences." Blake turned to face her, his expression thoughtful. "It is a difference, but it doesn't have to be a barrier. Look, I'm never going to be able to afford a place like this or take you to fancy restaurants on my salary. But I can make you laugh and listen when you need to talk and be there for you and Sophie. That's what I have to offer. If that's enough, then the rest is just details." "It's more than enough," Elena said, moving into his arms. "It's everything." They kissed slow and sweet until Sophie's voice interrupted them. "Are you guys being gross again?" Elena pulled back with a laugh. "We're being affectionate, there's a difference." "Lily says you're going to get married, and then we'll be sisters." Blake and Elena exchanged glances, both amused and slightly panicked. "Lily's getting ahead of things, sweetheart," Blake said gently. "Elena and I are dating. Marriage is a big step. But you love each other, right?" Lily appeared beside Sophie, both girls looking at the adults expectantly. "We care about each other very much," Elena said carefully. She and Blake had not yet said those three important words, though she felt them growing stronger every day. "That's not the same thing," Sophie pointed out with 5-year-old logic. "You're right, it's not," Blake agreed. "Love is something that grows over time. Your mom and I are still getting to know each other." The girls seemed satisfied with this answer and ran off to play. Elena busied herself making lunch, aware of Blake watching her. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "I'm getting there. To love, I mean. I'm not there yet, but I'm on my way." Elena's hands stilled on the cutting board. She turned to look at him. "Me too, I want to be sure, you know. For us and for the girls, this can't just be about us anymore." "I know, and I agree. We take it slow, we make sure it's real and solid before we take bigger steps." "Exactly." But even as they agreed to move slowly, Elena could feel herself falling. Blake was becoming essential to her life in ways that both thrilled and terrified her. She found herself calling him when she had a tough day, seeking his steady presence and practical perspective. She looked forward to their dates with an anticipation she had not felt in years. She woke up thinking about him and went to bed replaying their conversations. 2 months into their relationship, Blake's apartment flooded due to a burst pipe in the unit above his. The damage was extensive, and his landlord estimated it would take at least 3 weeks to repair. "We can stay with my neighbor temporarily," Blake told Elena over the phone, stress evident in his voice. "She has a pull-out couch. It'll be tight, but we'll manage. Or you and Lily could stay with us," Elena said before she could second-guess herself. "We have plenty of room." Sophie would be thrilled. There was a long pause. "Elena, that's incredibly generous, but I don't want to impose." "You wouldn't be imposing. You'd be helping me out, actually. Sophie's been asking if Lily can have a sleepover. This would be like an extended version." "Are you sure?" 3 weeks is a long time. You'd basically have a live-in carpenter and his 6-year-old. "I'm sure. Please, Blake, let me do this for you." Another pause, then a sigh. "Okay, thank you, really. This helps a lot." Having Blake and Lily stay with them shifted something fundamental in their relationship. Suddenly, they were living together, navigating bedtimes and breakfast routines and shared bathroom schedules. Elena saw Blake first thing in the morning, rumpled and sleepy, and last thing at night, often falling asleep on her couch after the girls were in bed. She learned that he was an early riser who made excellent coffee, that he sang off-key in the shower, that he was patient with the girls but firm when needed, that he cleaned up after himself without being asked and always thanked her for her hospitality, as though he were a guest rather than someone who belonged there. The domesticity of it all should have been overwhelming, but instead it felt natural. Right, like pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. One evening, about a week into their cohabitation, Elena came home from work to find Blake cooking dinner in her kitchen. Lily and Sophie were at the table doing homework together, and the whole scene was so perfectly family-like that Elena had to pause in the doorway to collect herself. Blake looked up and smiled when he noticed her. "Hey, how was your day?" "Long, what's all this?" "I figured I should contribute more than just my charming personality. Hope you don't mind that I raided your kitchen." "I don't mind at all. It smells amazing. What are you making?" "Nothing fancy, just spaghetti and meatballs, Lily's favorite." Elena moved into the kitchen and kissed him softly. "You didn't have to do this." "I know, I wanted to." Over dinner, the 4 of them talked about their days. Sophie showed Elena a drawing she had made of their family, which featured all 4 of them holding hands with a house and a sun in the background. Lily announced she had gotten a gold star on her spelling test. Blake shared a funny story about one of his coworkers. Elena contributed a sanitized version of a board meeting that had gone longer than expected. After the girls were in bed, Elena and Blake sat on the couch with glasses of wine, her feet in his lap while he absently massaged them. "This has been nice," Blake said quietly. "These past few days. Seeing you more, being part of the daily routine. It has been nice. Better than nice, it's been wonderful." "Elena, I need to tell you something." Her heart jumped. "Okay." Blake set down his wine glass and turned to face her more fully. "I'm in love with you. I know we said we'd take things slow, and we have been, but living here with you, seeing how you are with both girls, how you've welcomed us into your home without making me feel like I owe you anything. I love you. I need you to know that." Elena felt tears spring to her eyes. "I love you too. I've been trying to find the right time to tell you, but there's never a perfect moment. I love you, Blake. I love your kindness and your strength and the way you make me laugh. I love how you are with Sophie and Lily. I love that you see me as Elena, not as a CEO or a wealthy widow. Just me." Blake pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "Just you is pretty spectacular." They kissed, and it felt different than before. Deeper, more certain. This was not just attraction or affection. This was love, real and solid and full of possibility. What happens when the 3 weeks are up? Elena asked when they finally pulled apart. "When your apartment is ready, I guess Lily and I move back." "What if you didn't?" Blake's eyes widened. "Elena, are you asking us to move in permanently?" Maybe. Is that crazy? It's too soon, isn't it? By conventional standards, probably. But there's nothing conventional about us. We're two single parents who fell in love while navigating complicated lives. If this feels right, maybe we should trust that. Does it feel right to you? It feels perfect. But what about the girls? We should talk to them, make sure they're comfortable with this. Agreed. Tomorrow, we'll sit them down and have a family meeting. A family meeting, Blake repeated, a smile spreading across his face. I like the sound of that. The next morning, they gathered the girls in the living room. Sophie and Lily sat on the couch, looking curious and slightly nervous about the formal setup. So, Elena began, sitting down in a chair facing them with Blake beside her. Blake and Lily have been staying with us while their apartment gets fixed, and we've all had a lot of fun together, right? Both girls nodded enthusiastically. Well, Blake and I have been talking, and we wanted to ask you two something important. How would you feel if Blake and Lily stayed here permanently, if we all lived together as a family? Sophie's face lit up immediately. Really? Forever? If everyone agrees, yes. I want that. Can Lily be my sister? Lily looked at her father. Dad, can we really stay? If you want to, Lilybug, this would be a big change. You'd have to share a room with Sophie, and we'd be living in a different neighborhood. Your school would stay the same, but other things would be different. But we'd be together, all of us. Yes, we'd be together. Then I want to stay. I love it here, and I love Sophie and Elena. Elena felt tears prick her eyes again. She seemed to cry a lot lately, but they were good tears. Happy tears. We love you too, Lily, both of you. So it's decided? Sophie asked. We're a family now. We're a family now, Blake confirmed, reaching over to squeeze Elena's hand. The girls cheered and immediately started making plans for how they would decorate their shared room. Elena and Blake watched them, united in their love for these two beautiful children who had adjusted to loss, and now embraced this new beginning with open hearts. The logistics of combining their lives took time. Blake gave notice on his apartment and slowly moved his and Lily's belongings into the penthouse. Elena helped him integrate his things with hers, making space for his tools in the storage area and his clothes in her closet. She insisted on adding him to her bank accounts and creating a joint household account, which he was reluctant about at first. I'm not comfortable just having access to your money, Blake said as they sat in her home office discussing finances. It's not just my money anymore. We're partners. You contribute to this household in countless ways. The least I can do is make sure you don't feel financially strained. But the disparity is so huge, Elena. You're worth billions. I make maybe $70,000 a year if I include side jobs. So, money is just a tool. What matters is what we do with it and how we support each other. I make more, so I contribute more financially. You contribute in other ways, like handling home repairs and cooking and making sure I don't work myself into the ground. It balances out. Blake sighed but nodded. I still want to pay for things when I can. I need that dignity. Of course, and I respect that, but I also need you to let me take care of you sometimes. Can we find a middle ground? Middle ground. Yeah, I can do that. They worked it out, creating a system where Blake contributed what he could comfortably afford, and Elena covered the rest without making a big deal of it. It required communication and compromise from both of them, but they managed. Elena's social circle had mixed reactions to her relationship with Blake. Some were genuinely happy for her, pleased to see her moving on and finding love. Others were less enthusiastic, barely concealing their judgment about Blake's working-class background and modest income. There was gossip, speculation, even a few snide articles in society columns about the billionaire CEO and her carpenter boyfriend. Elena ignored most of it, but one particularly nasty piece in a tabloid caught her attention. It featured an unflattering photo of Blake from their first public appearance and speculated that he was using her for her money. She was reading it on her tablet during breakfast when Blake looked over her shoulder. Well, that's charming, he said, his voice carefully neutral. It's garbage. Don't let it get to you. I'm not. But it bothers you. Elena set down the tablet. It bothers me that they're attacking you. You don't deserve that. Hey. Blake tilted her chin up so she had to meet his eyes. I knew what I was getting into when I started dating you. I knew there would be scrutiny and judgment. I don't care what they say. I know why I'm here, and it has nothing to do with your bank account. I know that, but other people don't. Other people don't matter. We matter. Our girls matter. That's it. Elena leaned into him, grateful for his steadiness. I love you. I love you too. Now finish your coffee. You have a 9 o'clock meeting and you hate being late. 6 months after Blake and Lily moved in, Blake proposed. He did it at home, in their living room after the girls were asleep, without fanfare or elaborate production. He simply got down on one knee while Elena was reading on the couch and pulled out a simple gold band with a small diamond. Elena Romano, you've given me everything I never knew I needed. You've given Lily a mother figure and me a partner and both of us a family. I know I can't give you diamonds the size of your fist or private islands or any of the things your wealth could buy. But I can give you my love, my loyalty, my complete devotion. I can promise to be there for you and Sophie, to support your dreams and dry your tears and make you laugh when you take life too seriously. Will you marry me? Elena was crying before he finished, nodding through her tears. Yes, of course I'll marry you. I don't want diamonds or private islands, I just want you, forever. Blake slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly. They kissed, sealing the promise between them, and then Elena pulled back to look at the ring. Blake, this is beautiful. It was my grandmother's. It's the only thing of value I have to give you. It's perfect. Better than anything I could have bought myself because it comes with history and meaning. They told the girls the next morning over pancakes. Sophie and Lily screamed with excitement and immediately started planning the wedding, discussing flower arrangements and dress colors with the seriousness of seasoned event planners. Can we have purple flowers? Sophie asked. And yellow ones? Lily added. We can have whatever colors you want, Elena assured them. This is a celebration for all of us, not just Blake and me. They planned a small wedding, just close friends and family. Elena's parents flew in from California, and Blake's mother came from Boston. The ceremony was held in a botanical garden in the spring, surrounded by blooming flowers and soft sunshine. Sophie and Lily served as flower girls, wearing matching lavender dresses they had picked out together. They took their job very seriously, carefully scattering rose petals down the aisle with intense concentration. Elena wore a simple ivory gown, elegant, but not ostentatious. Blake wore his charcoal suit from their first formal date, the one that made him look like he had stepped out of a magazine. When Elena walked down the aisle, his eyes filled with tears. The ceremony was short and heartfelt. They had written their own vows, promises to love and support each other through whatever life brought. Blake's voice was steady as he spoke, his eyes never leaving Elena's face. Elena, when I met you, I was just trying to get through each day. Working, raising Lily, surviving. You showed me that life could be more than survival. You showed me joy and partnership and hope. You took my broken pieces and helped me become whole again. I promise to do the same for you, every single day for the rest of our lives. Elena's voice shook as she responded. Blake, you gave me back my heart when I thought it was closed forever. You showed me that love doesn't have to end with loss, that we can heal and grow and find happiness again. You made me believe in family and forever. I promise to cherish you, to respect you, to be your partner in all things. I promise to love Lily as my own, just as you've loved Sophie. We're not just joining our lives today. We're creating something new and beautiful together. When the officiant pronounced them married, the small gathering erupted in applause. Blake and Elena kissed, long and sweet, while Sophie and Lily jumped up and down with excitement. The reception was held at a nearby restaurant, intimate and warm. There were toasts and dancing and cake. Elena's mother cried and told Blake he was a good man. Blake's mother hugged Elena and thanked her for making her son smile again. Sophie and Lily announced to everyone who would listen that they were officially sisters now. Late in the evening, after most guests had left, Elena and Blake slow danced alone on the terrace. The girls were asleep in chairs nearby, exhausted from the excitement. "We did it," Blake murmured, holding Elena close. "We're actually married." "We are. How does it feel?" "Perfect." Terrifying and perfect. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and this will all be a dream. It's not a dream. It's real. We're real. I know. I just can't believe how lucky I am. A year ago, I was struggling to pay bills and worried about giving Lily a good life. Now I have you and Sophie, and I get to wake up next to you every morning. It's almost too much good fortune. You deserve it, Blake. You deserve all of this and more. You're a good man, a wonderful father, and the love of my life. Right back at you, Mrs. Xavier. Elena laughed. I'm keeping Romano professionally, but I like the sound of Mrs. Xavier for personal stuff. As long as you're mine, I don't care what you're called. They swayed together in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. The future stretched out before them, full of possibility and promise. There would be challenges ahead, they both knew that. Blending their lives completely would take continued work and compromise, but they had love and commitment and two beautiful daughters who bound them together. "What are you thinking about?" Blake asked. "Everything. How we got here, what comes next. I was thinking we should maybe look for a bigger place, one where we can all have more space, maybe even a house with a yard for the girls." "You want to leave Manhattan?" "Maybe. Is that crazy?" "I've always lived in the city, but now I'm thinking about what would be best for our family. Sophie and Lily could use outdoor space, room to play and run around." "I think that sounds great. As long as we're together, I don't care where we live." Elena smiled against his chest. "Have I told you lately that I love you? Once or twice today, but I never get tired of hearing it. I love you, Blake Xavier, with everything I have. I love you too, Elena Romano Xavier, now and always." 2 years later, they stood in the backyard of their new house in Westchester, watching Sophie and Lily play with their baby brother. Thomas Marcus Xavier had been born 6 months earlier, a chubby, happy baby with Blake's dark hair and Elena's eyes. His arrival had completed their family in a way none of them had anticipated. Sophie, now 7, was teaching Lily how to push Thomas in his baby swing, both girls doting on their little brother with fierce protectiveness. Blake stood with his arm around Elena, the picture of contentment. "Who would have thought?" Elena mused. "That day in the mall when Sophie got lost and you stopped to help her, who could have imagined it would lead to all this?" "I certainly didn't. I was just trying to help a scared kid, had no idea I was meeting my future wife. Do you ever regret it?" "Marrying me, I mean. Taking on all the complications that came with my life." Blake turned to face her, his expression serious. "Never, not for 1 second. You gave me a second chance at happiness. You gave Lily a complete family. You gave us Thomas. How could I ever regret that?" "I gave you a lot of complications, too. The media attention, the social obligations, the pressure. And you gave me love and partnership and a home. The good far outweighs any complications." He kissed her forehead. "Stop worrying. We're good, better than good. We're great." Elena relaxed into his embrace. He was right. They were great. The journey from that chance meeting in the mall to this moment had been unexpected and sometimes challenging, but it had brought them to exactly where they were meant to be. Sophie ran over, slightly out of breath. "Mom, Dad, can we have a picnic? Lily and I want to set up a blanket and eat outside." "That sounds perfect, sweetheart," Elena said. "Why don't you and Lily get the blanket while Dad and I grab some food?" The girls ran off, and Blake scooped up Thomas from the swing. "Come here, buddy. Let's go help Mommy make sandwiches." Thomas gurgled happily, grabbing at Blake's face with chubby hands. Elena watched them walk toward the house and felt overwhelming gratitude for this life they had built together. In the kitchen, they worked side by side, Blake making sandwiches while Elena cut fruit and grabbed drinks. It was such an ordinary moment, so wonderfully mundane, and yet it meant everything. This was what she had been missing for so long after Marcus died. Not grand gestures or exciting adventures, but simple daily partnership. Someone to share the load with, someone to laugh with over silly jokes, someone to build a life alongside. "What are you smiling about?" Blake asked, noticing her expression. "Just happy, that's all." "Just incredibly, wonderfully happy." "Me too." He set down the knife and pulled her close, careful not to squish Thomas between them. "Every single day, I'm grateful for you, for us." They carried everything outside where Sophie and Lily had spread out a large blanket in the shade. The five of them sat together, eating and talking and laughing. Thomas sat in Elena's lap, gumming a piece of bread and babbling contentedly. Sophie told elaborate stories about her school friends while Lily demonstrated a new cartwheel she had learned. As the afternoon sun filtered through the trees and warmed their little gathering, Elena looked around at her family. Her beautiful daughters, so different in personality, but united in their love for each other. Her baby son, a perfect blend of her and Blake. And Blake himself, the man who had helped her daughter in a mall and somehow ended up helping her heart heal. "I love you all so much," Elena said suddenly, interrupting whatever story Sophie was telling. "I just wanted you to know that." "We love you too, Mommy," Sophie said, crawling over to hug her. "Love you, Elena," Lily added, joining the hug. "Love you, my beautiful wife," Blake said, wrapping his arms around all of them. Thomas squealed and waved his arms, his contribution to the family love fest. They laughed and held each other close, a tangle of arms and happiness in their backyard. Later that night, after the children were all asleep, Blake and Elena sat on their back porch with glasses of wine, watching fireflies dance in the growing darkness. "I have something to tell you," Blake said, a note of excitement in his voice. "What's that?" "I got a call today from that furniture design company I sent my portfolio to a few months ago. They want to commission a whole line of custom pieces. It's a huge contract, Elena." Life-changing money for someone like me. Elena sat up straight, delighted. "Blake, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you." "It means I could open my own shop, hire a small team, really build something. I've been dreaming about this for years, but I never thought it would actually happen." "You deserve this. Your work is beautiful and unique. Of course people want to buy it." Blake was quiet for a moment. "I want to do this on my own merit, not because I'm married to Elena Romano. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense. And for the record, I've never pulled any strings for you. This is all you, your talent and hard work paying off. I know, thank you for that. Thank you for never making me feel like I needed to be rescued or taken care of. You're my partner, not my dependent. We take care of each other." Blake pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. "Have I mentioned lately how much I love you? Once or twice, but I never get tired of hearing it." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of the night. Inside the house, their children slept peacefully, safe and loved. Around them, their home stood solid and welcoming, a shelter they had created together. And between them, love flowed steady and true, the foundation on which they had built this beautiful life. The years that followed brought the normal challenges of family life. Sophie grew into a confident teenager, Lily not far behind. Thomas developed into a rambunctious little boy who kept them all on their toes. Blake's custom furniture business flourished, allowing him to finally feel like he was contributing financially on more equal footing. Elena continued to run her company, but she learned to delegate better, to prioritize family time, to find balance. There were arguments and disagreements, as in any marriage. Days when the stress of work and parenting felt overwhelming. Moments of doubt and frustration. But through it all, they held fast to each other and to the commitment they had made that day in the botanical garden. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Blake surprised Elena with a weekend away, just the two of them while Blake's mother watched the kids. They went back to the botanical garden where they had married, walking the same paths hand in hand. 5 years, Elena marveled. It feels like yesterday and a lifetime ago all at once. Best 5 years of my life, Blake said. Well, second best. The year before we got married was pretty great too. So 6 years total of greatness. Exactly, and hopefully 60 more to come. They stopped at the spot where they had exchanged vows, the same flowering trees blooming overhead. Elena turned to face Blake, taking both his hands in hers. "I need you to know something," she said seriously. "I've had success in my career. I've built a billion-dollar company and earned respect in my field, but none of that, absolutely none of it, compares to what we've built together. This family, this life, this love. It's my greatest achievement and my deepest joy." Blake's eyes glistened with emotion. "I feel the same way. I spent so long feeling like I wasn't enough, like I didn't have enough to offer the world. But you showed me that what I have to give, my love and my effort and my presence, that's valuable. You gave me that gift. You gave it to yourself. I just recognized it." They kissed there under the flowering trees, sealing their commitment again, reaffirming the choice they made every day to love each other and build their life together. It was not always easy. It required work and compromise and grace, but it was worth it. God, it was worth it. As they walked back to their car, Blake's phone buzzed with a text. He checked it and smiled, showing Elena the screen. It was a photo from his mother of all 3 kids cuddled on the couch watching a movie, Thomas squished between his big sisters, everyone smiling. "That's what we made," Blake said softly. "That beautiful, happy family. We did, didn't we? Not bad for a chance meeting in a mall. Not bad at all." They drove home as the sun set, eager to get back to their children, to their life together. Because that was the thing about love, real love. It wasn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It was about choosing each other every day. It was about building something steady and true that could weather whatever storms came. It was about creating a family not just through biology, but through commitment and care, and showing up even when it was hard. Elena Romano had been a billionaire CEO, powerful and successful and seemingly complete. But she had been missing the most important thing: someone to share it all with. Someone who saw past the money and the title to the woman underneath. Someone who valued her for her heart rather than her bank account. Blake Xavier had been a struggling carpenter, working hard to provide for his daughter but missing partnership and companionship. Someone to lean on when things got tough. Someone to celebrate victories with, no matter how small. Someone who appreciated his strength and his tenderness, and everything he brought to the table. They had found each other in the most unlikely of circumstances, brought together by a crying child and a kind stranger's intervention. From that chance encounter had grown something beautiful and lasting, a love that transcended their different backgrounds and circumstances. A family that blended seamlessly, bound together by choice and commitment rather than just biology. As Elena and Blake pulled into their driveway, they could see the house lit up from within, warm and welcoming. Their children were inside waiting for them. Their life together was unfolding exactly as it should. Blake turned off the car, but neither of them moved to get out. They sat for a moment, hands clasped between them, looking at their home. "Thank you," Elena said quietly. "For what?" "For stopping to help Sophie that day, for being brave enough to give me your number, for taking a chance on me even though my life is complicated. For loving me and my daughter so completely, for giving me Thomas and this beautiful family, for everything." Blake lifted her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles gently. "Thank you for seeing me, for recognizing that I had something to offer despite not having much money. For bringing me into your life and making space for Lily and me, for loving us so fiercely, for building this with me." They finally got out of the car and walked to the front door together, ready to return to their loud, chaotic, perfect family. As Blake opened the door, they could hear the children's voices inside, calling for them. Sophie was telling a story, Lily was laughing, and Thomas was making his adorable baby noises. Blake and Elena exchanged one more smile, a moment of shared joy and gratitude before stepping inside. Whatever challenges tomorrow brought, they would face them together. That was their promise, their commitment, their love made real through action and choice. The door closed behind them, sealing them into the warmth and light of their home, their family, their beautifully imperfect and absolutely perfect life together. A life that had started with an act of kindness in a crowded mall and had grown into something neither of them could have imagined, but both of them had helped create. This was their happily ever after, not because everything was perfect, but because they had chosen each other and kept choosing each other every single day. And that, Elena thought as Blake's arm came around her waist, and their children surrounded them with hugs and chatter, was the very best kind of love story there was. The kind that was real and lasting and built to endure whatever life brought their way. Together, they were complete. Together, they were home. Together, they were exactly where they were meant to be.